Rail workers warned us about disaster like this. I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, or they've cut the track gates too short and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmans, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we had one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin. It picked a switch and derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically in the tiny town of East Palestine, Ohio, 20 miles from where I grew up. So I met Clyde in East Palestine to ask him about it.
It looks like a faulty bearing caused a catastrophic derailment. These railroads are turning profits hand over fist. They've cut their workforce to bare bones, and now they're paying the price for it because the wheels are falling off the train, basically. Carmen were inspecting cars about 3 minutes per car. That's always been the industry standard. Now it's 90 seconds per car.
Is that because of PSR?
Yes, it's a rush job right now. And these guys are under pressure. I mean, they're working men and women. And, you know, if they don't hurry up and get this car done, they're going to be fired.
Great points. So I went to a press conference with Norfolk Southern and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to ask them about this.
What could precision scheduled railroad have to do with the axle failure that caused the derailment?
I have no idea that it's a mechanical issue. Precision scheduled railroading is a management process.
Not a great answer. And that's probably because Norfolk Southern let a worker take the fall rather than a single corporate executive showing up in the town that they polluted to be held accountable. You see, Wall Street owns Norfolk Southern. 74% of shares are owned by a who's who of infamous hedge funds. And this is the business model that they demand. Profit at any cost. And disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. But instead of answering for any of that, they're betting that the corporate media, under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.
Welcome to a special edition of Straight Outta Politics. I'm your host for today. I'm Jay, or CJ, or Compton J. Any of those will work. Just making sure the video on the back is on silent and not playing during. So, but welcome to the show. Got a topic today. Everybody's talking about it. It's still the Ohio rail or train derailment and all of the toxic fumes. Actually, this is before the derailment. They were already burning off these toxic fumes. So we call it the derailment story, but it's actually was before that. And we'll get to some videos of, of the town hall that they have. I don't know if this is the right word to call it, the town hall. We'll get to some videos of that, of actual residents. I wanted to talk, and the reason for Nina on the graphic is because she's from Ohio, so we'll lean on her a little bit as far as we'll watch a couple of her clips on the topic, and we'll give her grace for this episode, in that she is a person from Ohio, so I wouldn't think that she's trying. I would hope that that's not what she's doing. So we'll listen to some of her clips and talk about it, and then the broader topic is the complicity train. I love how Erin came up with that. I just kind of gave her a concept, and she always delivers with some of the better ideas for the graphics. So love that. I'm going to play this video again in just a second to get to a couple of parts, because it goes to the point of the video, and that's the complicity train. There's a lot of people complicit in this. There's a lot of people and companies complicit. You can already say the rail companies, the rail barons, we already know they're complicit. But we also got our government, blue and red, complicit. We also got, if we drill it down to the left, we also got the progressives, progressive Democrats, who are complicit in this. Because the very thing that they're spoken about in the introductory video is the very thing, or one of the things, or the very thing that was the sticking point in the negotiations with the railroaders and the rail companies, when the Democrats, and along with the Republicans and the Joe Biden administration, along with the progressives, minus like the rotating hero in this instance, I think it was Rashida, all voted to break workers' ability to negotiate for the very thing that could have contributed as part of the contributing to this derailment. So, there's blame to go all the way around. And then, of course, we'll do some announcements. We'll check out some of the comments, the early comments, before we get deep into the conversation. But so there's blame to go around. So, but today is free flowing, not really segments, just, we'll just kind of move along throughout the discussion. I got a bunch of things in my notes, no particular order, but here are some of the things I want to cover. And let's hope that I cover all of them. I'll go over what I'm going to cover as I put the graphic up. So again, great graphic from Erin. And if you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, she's putting a logo in the bottom, in one of the corners, and most of the new graphics that she's been making. But anyway, these are the things I'm going to answer or want to talk about. Progressive scapegoat Mayor Pete, when the real issue is aligning with the Democratic Party. So I think I could take the graphic down. Everybody gets it. And then who's to blame for Ohio's toxic derailment? And that's basically when we're just talking about how there's enough blame to go around, and we'll just kind of talk about how everybody who contributed to this issue and talk about that. The squad's sort of prolonged silence that we have, I think a couple of them have tweeted to acknowledge it or something, nothing really in depth. I know I've seen a tweet from Ilhan. I think the other one was maybe Pramila. Gotta look at it. But very basic. I think Pramila's tweet is where she's calling out the Trump administration about this, when she clearly is banking on people not knowing the full story about that Trump thing that she referred to. I think we're gonna get to that. But their silence indicates guilt. Like the fact that they didn't come out right away and was talking about this, to me, indicated guilt. Indicated that they were praying, hopefully this story does not go national. Or hopefully the story stays in a news cycle 1 or 2 days. But their deafening silence for several days clearly indicated guilt for them breaking the rail strike, which is the very issue that contributed to this derailment. And we'll get into that. And this is another thing, because the lever has been on top of this story. You'll hear Nina Turner refer to the lever in a lot of the clips that we're going to watch of Nina Turner. And then even on Democracy Now, I think we'll go to the Democracy Now video after this one. But the Democracy Now video, the writer in that video, I don't know if he's a reporter, but I know he's a writer in that video, is from the lever, who's talking about this. And it gets to one of my last points I want to cover, one of the two last points, and that is, what good is the Lever and David Sirota? What good is their reporting if they're still going to push people to the Democratic Party? And I know there's a focus or an attempt to try to focus this on Mayor Pete, but Mayor Pete has a boss. Mayor Pete has a boss. So I know we're trying to focus the energy on Mayor Pete and take it away from the Democratic Party, but this is about the Democratic Party. Mayor Pete doesn't have to resign. He has a boss that can send him packing. So let's stop talking about the worker, because he's a worker to his boss. And I'm using this figuratively. Of course, he's not a worker in the situation, but I'm saying in relationship, meaning he has a person who's over him. So let's make sure we're shining a light on not just part of the problem, which is Mayor Pete, because Mayor Pete is part of a larger roach called the Democratic Party. Mayor Pete is just the leg. The roach that infested this and got this, one of the roaches, because there's a red roach too. There was a red one and a blue one, because they all contributed to this. And we'll get to an article, I think, Socialist Alternative, where it talks about that. This is a both party issue. This is not a one party issue. But let's click this down. We got 100 people watching, or a little bit over 100. Can we get 100 likes? 100 people hit that like button. And let's play this video one more time here. What do I have it on? Oh, I have it here. Yeah, let's play it one more time from the beginning here.
Rail workers warned us about disaster like this. I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading.
Now, the reason this is from December 12th. This is when they were breaking the strike. So this is before what happened in Ohio. Before that. And he's talking exactly about precision scheduled railroading, which is like how their scheduling goes. I think they call it PSR.
Railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance.
Shorter staff. So what they do, they make the trains longer with shorter staff, with less people. So the train was shorter and it had more people, and they said, no, let's get rid of some people and make the trains longer. And then they don't block the trains the right way. Like the weight of a train or a cart, you have to put the trains in a certain order by weight so that an abrupt stop won't cause a derailment, which is the exact thing that happened here in Ohio. So let's continue to listen to the railroaders.
Maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, or they've cut the track gangs too short and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmen's, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we had one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin. It picked a switch and derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically.
I'm going to back it up a little bit. Wife was getting something out the room, so I didn't want to stop it where I really want to stop it. So let's go back to the point.
Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something.
And it's so crazy that this railroader is bringing up a trail derailment story from Ohio. His example is from a derailment in Ohio. And yet again, we have a derailment in Ohio and now another one in Detroit. Now, thinking of Detroit, I think Rashida Tlaib may have tweeted about it too. The rotating hero and the strike breaking thing. Let's listen to the rest of this here.
Something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several
stopped by Congress or including the progressives. Like I said in another stream, or maybe several streams, this has literally been one of the worst 12-month spans for the squad. Like the worst. From the strike breaking, from being showed up of the force of vote, being clearly shown that the force of vote would have worked for the left and they didn't do anything about it, to now the repercussions of breaking the strike, we are visually seeing it.
Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically in the tiny town of East Palestine, Ohio, 20 miles from where I grew up. So I met Clyde in East Palestine to ask him about it.
Looks like a faulty bearing.
So that's the same guy in the previous video. He went back. Now he's giving him an update. He's telling them what happened. So I'll back it up a few seconds.
Ask him about it.
Looks like a faulty bearing caused a catastrophic derailment. These railroads are turning profits hand over fist. They've cut their workforce to bare bones, and now they're paying the price for it because the wheels are falling off the train, basically. Carmen were inspecting cars about 3 minutes per car. That's always been the industry standard. Now it's 90 seconds per car.
Is that because of PSR?
Yes, it's a rush job right now.
PSR is the precision scheduling railroading. That's the scheduling, whatever they call it.
And these guys are under pressure. I mean, they're...
I think there's more like a scheduling policy is more a way of to call it.
Working men and women, and, you know, if they don't hurry up and get this car done, they're going to be fired.
Great points. So I went to a press conference with Norfolk Southern and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to ask them about this.
What could precision scheduled railroad have to do with the axle failure that caused the derailment?
I have no idea that it's a mechanical issue. Precision scheduled railroading is a management process.
Not a great answer. And that's probably
management process.
Because Norfolk Southern let a worker take the fall rather than a single corporate executive showing up in the town that they polluted to be held accountable. You see, Wall Street owns Norfolk Southern. 74% of shares are owned by a who's who of infamous hedge funds. And this is the business model that they demand. Profit at any cost. And disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. But instead of answering for any of that, they're betting that the corporate media, under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.
That's funny because that's exactly what's happening. That is exactly the context that they're even sort of talking about that. If they're even talking about this, that is the exact context here. Let's look at some comments here. I don't know what you guys are talking about to each other, but yeah. Keep it cordial, I guess. Try to. Well, so don't get me wrong. It does. No, I mean, I don't mean to contradict you here, Sean, because I agree what you're saying. What I'm saying is this. Let me give you an example. Because I think the pushback, I can't remember who I was talking to, a comrade, gave me pushback on David Sirota. I can't remember what it was. Not pushback, but they were saying, well, their reporting, even their reporting is, is good. And I said, yeah, the reporting is never the problem. The reporting, you can't pull up a time where I say, oh, David Sirota's reporting is wrong. David Sirota reporting is terrible. That's not the problem. The problem is this, and and I can probably tell it best through an analogy. And most of you who've watched me have heard this analogy, so sorry if you're hearing it again. If I tell you, hey, you just met me. Hey, I'm a vegetarian. I'm a vegan. Yes, I love to take care of my body. Let me, help you, train you. I can help you, whatever. Like, that's the pitch. Like, you're looking for a health person to help you with nutrition. I tell you that. Oh, I eat clean and blah, blah, blah. 2 hours later, you see me in the alley with 2 Big Macs in my hand eating. What was the value of what I told you earlier? You get what I'm saying? Like, what's the value in that? What's the value in me telling you I'm a vegan if later on you're going to see me eating a Big Mac? What's the value in you telling me the information about the Democratic Party that's corrupt, that's doing all this stuff, if you're going to later tell me to vote for those things? It's devaluing your own reporting. I'm not devaluing their reporting. I'm not saying their reporting is terrible. I'm saying the good reporting you're doing is being devalued by you because you are at the end telling people to go Democratic after you just reported all this information on the Democratic Party. So I want to make sure that's clear. And I don't think anybody, and I know Sean is saying this, but I want to make sure that's clear that nobody is saying David Sirota's reporting or the Lever's reporting is bad or incorrect. We're saying is you're defiling your own work by telling people to vote for Democrats in the end. You're defiling your own work. So I hope that clarifies it. But let's go to some more comments. It's recognizing the problem a while back. No purity test. Good joke. What's up, Bryce? Yeah, agree. Sean Miller, it's always has been a vicious rotating cycle. But we're getting smarter as a community, I'm hoping. Purity test is not something anybody who's actually a leftist use. And Nick was just covering this. Like, we don't use that. You either believe it or not. Where's that clip at? Let me actually see if I have that clip. That would be interesting for the introduction if I had that. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So let me actually go to that. Let me go to I think we clipped it. Was it yesterday or either yesterday or this morning? So let me go to that because it's good to insert that here where we're talking about purity tests. And I think that's what the discussion was when I saw some off-color comments that you guys were talking to each other. I saw some off-color comments. And it's with this Jacobin, if you saw if you saw this video, it's titled Jacobin Magazine as an Agent of the Democratic Party. And let me share it with you. Hang on one second here. You can see what I'm saying. My bad, everybody. Right here. Jacobin Magazine is an agent of the Democratic Party. So, CJ's purity test. We don't have to agree on everything. So let's talk about this right here, because this is a good time to bring it up. And luckily, he answers it right in the beginning of the video, so we don't have to watch much of it. So let's listen to Nick explain or talk about purity tests And this video, like I said, you can watch the whole video. It's called Jacobin Magazine as an Agent of the Democratic Party.
But I want to read this part here because this is from the Jacobin article. This ridiculous. This shows why Jacobin is agents of the Democratic Party. This shows that their job is to get people to believe in the myth that we're going to push the party to the left. Jacobin still believes that AOC and Bernie did a great job on that. As Joe Biden funds the police more, as he fracks the shit out, he fracks more, he do more public drilling. Fund the military more. The border industrial complex, meaning DHS, ICE, and border control, they get record amount of money under the Biden administration. Big oil is making record amount of money under the Biden administration. But people still believe in Jacobin that Bernie Sanders and AOC influenced anything within the party. The only thing that AOC and Bernie is doing is providing cover from the things I just told you. So they're actually doing worse than you think. It's not the criticism that I have is not the failure of shifting the party to the left. My criticism is that they now are sheep herding people who are otherwise revolutionary, otherwise who have criticism of Biden for warmongering. They are providing a shield. AOC is there to go on Rachel Maddow to tell you how Biden's State of the Union was amazing. You guys, that's a massive negative propaganda campaign that even Joe Manchin couldn't pull off. Let me read this. Go ahead, Andrew. I think Andrew.
Yeah, just really quick. That's such a good point that you make, that actually in reality, instead of platforming Marjorie Taylor Greene or any type of Republican, I mean, the only people that AOC and Bernie continually, the rest of the so-called squad continually platform and prop up are the Democratic Party. They lend them a thin thread between themselves and somebody like Lula, who is internationally popular, who domestically has been very popular. And even though he has done all of these kind of, negotiated settlements and sort of statecraft projects where he doesn't push quite as left as he might actually have been in his earlier days as a union leader. All AOC and Bernie have to do occasionally is tie themselves to him, and they're using themselves, their kind of curated image of themselves, plus Lula and whoever else they can grab to prop up the Democratic Party. They're not propping up Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You have AOC locking arms with Chuck Schumer while they boo and shoo away an anti-war activist.
And an important thing to know is Jacobin was founded by a former vice chair of DSA, who is a really wealthy writer who also writes for the New York Times, the Washington Post, Fox, and The Nation.
Watch till you see this. I didn't want to read the whole article because it's ridiculous, and I want to make it a short segment. But I did pull this segment in particular because this shows you exactly.
So let me, because a lot of you've seen this already. I can't believe Jacobin, because I went back after I saw this segment. Went back and actually read this part. I'm going to get back to the normal schedule. I just thought this was interesting. I'm going to get back. So I went back and read this, and it's as bad as he's describing it here. It's as bad as that. What they say in this article and how they're trying to attach Bernie and AOC to Lula, and Lula, don't get me wrong, he's not even that far left himself, but he's leaps and bounds further left than AOC and Bernie Sanders. This article is you need some Pepto to read it.
The role that Jacobin is playing. Look at this article. Still, it is telling that Lula flagged Sanders and AOC, who detractors insist are Democratic lackeys and purveyors of a thin gruel electoralism hostile to genuine working class politics. So hold up, Jacobin. You're telling me that Lula having a photo out with Bernie Sanders and AOC erases all of the criticism that we have of them. That is what they're saying here. They're saying that, oh my God, we're the detractors, meaning RBN. They see what we're saying. Mm-hmm. Or Jimmy Dorka, he's a bigger outlet than us. Let's say Jimmy, because we're still a small channel, right? So they see people like Jimmy and the Convo Cow. They see Black Agenda Report. They see Gray Zone. They see RBN. They see the people who call these frauds out who they are. Mm-hmm. People who support war. People who support the DHS. People who support the police. people who support the surveillance state, and they say, oh, none of that criticism that you have of them is real because they did a photo out with Lula. Are you serious? This is what passes for journalistic standards in the boutique left. Do you guys see this? I'm gonna read it again. It's telling that Lula flagged AOC and Bernie, who detractors insist are Democratic.
Yeah, this article is pretty terrible.
That's exactly what they are. Look, Jacobin, do you see AOC on Rachel Maddow covering for Joe Biden's ridiculous lies? They even Status School did a video call now.
Yeah.
We did a reaction live where we didn't even have time to break down all the lies he was telling. But AOC went on there and said they're doing amazing. You have the progressives that just came out and said they're not even willing to support a primary challenger against Biden because of the State of the Union.
And we did a segment on that.
Jacobin is trying to refute the fact that they're Democratic lackeys. And I only got the first 3 lines. Like it's incredible what comes out of the boutique left. And they call us toxic for rebuking this nonsense. They are literally going directly at RBN, whether they know it or not. And maybe this may be aimed at Jimmy or someone else. But this is what we do. We call these people out. And they say, anyway, let me continue their quote. Who detractors insist are Democratic lackeys and purveyors of a thin-grilled electoralism hostile to genuine working-class politics. It is. Anyway, at tribunes of the left in the United States, this gesture is of a piece with Lula's longstanding insistence that electoral politics are a crucial vehicle for social progress and that building political power to deliver substantive improvements to poor and working class people, and more important than, check this, ideological purity play. What are you talking? I'm telling you guys right now, and I'm drawing my line in the sand here. There is no one who is an advocate of the workers, who is a leftist, who uses the term purity ploys and
I did that on purpose. So y'all was like, hey, I saw some comments. What? He's not even getting to the point. It was long-winded a little bit, but it was good information before he got to this point. Because no one who believes in anything solidly, we don't, on the left, use these terms. It's usually the people who are the ones on the outside. It's the ones who, oh, you're the one who says you want to send funding to Ukraine. That's okay. Those are the people who are saying that's purity test. Oh, you're okay with funding the Iron Dome. Oh, those are the people who are usually bringing up we shouldn't have purity tests. You get what I'm saying? So, but Nick explains it very well in this next 30 seconds here. He breaks it down pretty well. So let's make sure you can hear all of this here.
I'm telling you guys right now, and I'm drawing my line in the sand here. There is no one who is an advocate of the workers, who is a leftist, who uses the term purity ploys and purity politics. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? To say, oh my God, you guys got purity tests. Let me bring up an example to explain what I mean here. Imagine if you are running in the Democratic Party, but you are strongly anti-gay. Like you're like aggressively anti-gay. And then people call you out for being anti-gay, and you're like, oh my God, you guys are your purity test. And you're like, what do you mean purity test? Imagine if you in the Republican Party, or no, let me make it worse. Imagine if you're in the Libertarian Party, running in a party that believe in low taxes, no regulation, and you're like, you know what, I'm running a Libertarian Party, I want to change things up. I believe in high taxes. I believe in hella government regulation. They'd be like, you're not a libertarian. And then you'd be like, oh my God, you guys in your purity plays.
Right. So, and I'm going to let it play some more. But the point is, what do you mean purity tests? Either you believe in something or you don't. And this is what I always say. This is the reason why socialism has been taken over. People who aren't socialists think they're socialists because it's not at all steeped in ideology. Purity test. What do you mean? There's standards that make you a socialist. And there's things you do that make you not. Breaking a strike literally makes you not a socialist. So again, People who bring up purity tests are usually the ones out of bounds of what they're trying to call themselves. I'm left, but I'm sending money to the Ukraine. I'm left, but I'm voting for more money to the police state. I'm left, but I'm voting to fund the Iron Dome. You see? People of beliefs, there's no such thing as purity tests. That's something made up for people who don't believe in who don't believe in, who don't have core beliefs. This is a better way. Who don't have core beliefs, but still want to be given a pass to be called a leftist or progressive. The fuck out of here, man. Anyway, it was long-winded. Let's let Nick finish out the point, and then we'll close this and let this be the introduction, and get back to the main point, which is the Ohio derailment and the blame game, I guess you can call it.
You guys see how ridiculous that is? You're either right on issues or you're wrong. You're either left or you're not on the left. This thing when people say you're purity testing, you're either right on these issues or you're not. And the AOC, Bernie, and the squad are factually wrong on these issues. The funding war. Apologizing for a guy who funded the border industrial complex more. But this, no, and I'm telling you, that's my line saying no one who's actually a advocate of the worker ever uses the term purity test. You mean standing for your values? That's literally unbelievable. But what you guys?
Okay, I'll stop it there. Because when I saw that comment, I instantly thought, because this literally was like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, not even 3 days ago. So I'm like, wow, I remember how he broke that shit down on purity test. And then we found, and we saw the video there. So thank Nick. Short little Nick and CJ segment, but Nick is on video for you. But let's get back to the topic at hand. So that's because that's when we got to when I said, what good is David Sirota's reporting if he still pushes Dems in the end? And that's when we got into that tangent. But the last thing I kind of want to talk about, and that is, do Democrats care about working class poor whites? And it's specifically the working class poor whites in Ohio, sort of like where this area, is at the center of. Because they didn't go for the Democratic Party. They're likely not going to go for the Democratic Party again. Is this contributing to the slow footing, the slow walking of help given to this state? Like, are the Democrats that petty? Or is this just the failure of the system, regardless? Like, whether it was a Republicans in office, we'll probably have the same response because it's capital, because it's the rail barons. That can also be the answer. So just chime in. I'll pop your comments on the screen. But let's get to some of the actual residents and what they're saying is happening to them at the town hall. So let's talk about that first. Let's establish what's going on, how it's affecting people, and then we can sort of go to the railroad companies and talk about their responsibility, and then how we can branch out to the politicians. We'll kind of go in that order. So quick announcements before I get into the videos. Yeah, anyway, I'll tell the story later. Straight Out of Politics is what you're watching if you just joined us. Make sure you're on our Substack if you want notifications when we go live. And I kind of went live today because I knew Sabby wasn't going to go. She's traveling to the Rage Against the War Machine rally. She will be speaking. So because of that, I kind of filled in because I didn't plan to go today. But anyway, join our Substack and for our notifications when we go live, when we upload clips, and also an added benefit, you get the link to our Substack The other thing, we hit 31,000 yesterday sometime. Thank you for those who got us to this point. Thank you for those that are still subscribing even today. We do appreciate all the support. Let me see if this is working to show me an updated, because this app really fucks up a lot. It is not working. Okay. So anyway, so that's the last update I got. It may be more, but that's the last update I got. The next thing is here is our website, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com, and also our email. And email us if you have an article. We do ask that if you, for consideration, that an article has a topic. I should have said it the other way. If you want to email topics that you think we want to cover, make sure it includes an article. That's the way. I use article in the beginning, and I should have. Anyway, so that's one reason to use our email. Or if you want to reach out about participating in any community service, we're trying to collect areas of people in the boondocks that you might be, and you don't know of anybody in your area you can connect with and sort of build a community with in your local area. So if you're in the boondocks and you're reaching out and want to know who else is in the boondocks or who are as closest to you, let us email us, and we can kind of match people up in your particular areas. Last but not least, let's make sure we hit the like button. We're at 130 likes. How about we just do 20 more? That's a good thing. Let's get to 150. So we're at 130 already. Let's try to get to 150. 20 more people hit that like button. And now let's go to the video clips I have. This is the wrong one. Where is it at? Oh, YouTube, that's why. All right, so let's go to, here is one of the residents of Palestine, Ohio. Open here.
I live on East Martin Street, and last night the smell was so bad it was making us sick, and we were getting nauseous and headaches and stuff. He woke up with a bloody nose before school the other day.
Were you guys all evacuated?
We weren't. We live on Kenmore Drive, so we're under 2 miles from the crash site. And we've been experiencing headaches and burning throat and burning eyes, especially when we're outside.
What do you feel about, the way the railroad company has provided information and
what information?
Yeah, they have really.
I haven't heard anything from the railroad at all.
Besides the guy that spoke during Governor DeWine's press conference, and his comments were, "It's not my department. I don't have the answers for that." So
I just saw they tweeted just a few minutes ago that they're not going to come tonight to the meeting.
Oh, naturally.
Who isn't coming? The railroad. Oh, they're not coming now.
no, because they're scared of threats, physical harm.
Yeah.
So this is what the capitalists, why they want to keep you use civility politics. They think they're supposed to be able to poison you, put toxic fumes, kill your babies, and you just supposed to be nice. That's what they think. It's absurd. Ohio toxic rail derailment. I think I spelled that right. But yeah, it's absurd. If you don't want to have threats, don't cut back on the staff. Upgrade the rail industry. Upgrade the infrastructure, I should say.
Yeah.
They didn't protect the environment. They didn't tell them nothing. They knew what was on them cars, and they didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't care about people. They didn't care about nobody. It's all about money. That was it.
Is that what you took from your house?
No, I came down and took it.
Online, it showed that the train was on fire in Alliance, which is an hour from here.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me they couldn't have stopped along the way to address that, Right. What if they would have taken out the gas station? Guess what? I wouldn't be here right now. Neither would my son. Yeah, that's all they care about is the money. As soon as they lifted the evacuation, 2 minutes later, there's a train going through
down.
town.
I know. I was in shock over that. I didn't think that they would run the trains that fast.
Oh yeah,
They already have trains going.
Oh
now.
yeah.
I mean, people just barely got back to their homes, and there goes the trains.
Within 5 minutes of them issuing the lift of the evacuation, there was a train running through town.
You hear that? Within 5 minutes. Or I'm sorry, let me go back and make sure I don't misquote her. However, the amount of time she says, too short of amount of time. Let's go back 10 seconds.
Back to their homes, and there goes the trains.
Within 5 minutes of them issuing the
5 minutes,
lift
yes.
of the evacuation, there was a train running through town.
And you think so?
So the let me let the video.
So this evacuation had nothing to do with whether it was safe. It was just
absolutely
about
not.
getting the trains rolling.
Just getting the trains.
No, because
rolling.
when I came home yesterday, I shouldn't have smelled that as bad as I did. You know, it shouldn't.
Wow. And I don't think there's not enough talk about how before the derailment there was a fire. An intentional fire to try to prevent this. It's terrible. Anyway, let's play this. Or I'm sorry, let's go to the next one. Where is it? So there's 3, and that's the one I hadn't seen on social media. These other 2 I'm gonna play. I did see, so maybe you have also seen these. But I'm going to play them for just in case for those that may not have seen. Some other residents also speak on this.
On the last house on the left, I evacuated.
Now, to me, I think this is probably one of the more popular clips, if not the most popular clip. So this is the one we'll play now, and then I have another one to play. So let's listen.
On the last house on the left, I evacuated me and my mother beforehand, as soon as it happened. And then I come back Sunday to get her insulin, and I drive through a cloud of shit at the bottom of 170. I thought I was going to freaking die. And it stressed me enough, I ended up in the hospital, and they thought I was going to have a damn heart attack. So what did I breathe in? That's what I want to know. What did I breathe in? What is everybody else breathing in?
The question is, what is the chemical that is in the crude?
And there's no
effect.
effect.
Leslie run and sulfur. There's sulfur run Leslie.
I got to move out of my house.
The latest data that we have up through is the 12 that's on shelf of the vinyl chlorides. There are other trace materials consistent with combustion byproducts and all that. But the primary driver was the butyl acrylate.
Dioxin?
It was something I thought I was going to die. It was something extreme. I broke out total red for 5 days on my chest.
Consistent with surface water quality 268,
Numb lips for 7 days. Burning throat for 7 days. Draining sinuses for 7 days. And pretty much almost had a damn nervous breakdown over this shit.
Everyone's frustrated. I understand this.
Did he answer your question?
No, I didn't give him the answer. I ain't gonna give you the answer. I know I sucked shit into my lungs. It wasn't supposed to be sucked into your lungs. I thought I was gonna wreck my truck.
And what happens if he did inhale something in 5 years from now? He's all dead or laid up or whatever.
I walked in the house and my shirt was soaked
responsible
to here.
for his bills? He has no insurance. Who's going to pay for that if he ends up in the hospital?
My sinuses drained so fast I was soaked to here when I got to the house. And when I walked in their door, I reeked. Reeked of it.
Good
That's
evening
terrible.
from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. When a party wins a new majority.
Just terrible. Wait a minute. Now, this is not my video, but let me see what this says. Republicans use Ohio train disaster to pursue culture war Ignores. Okay. This just popped up in the feed. I did not plan that, but that sounds kind of interesting. So I'm curious to even see what that is even about because it's on topic. But let's read this super chat. Thank you, Yep X. Also, look at the U.S. map. The Ohio Basin connects the waterways that span through about half the country. Pollution is going to affect communities all over the country in a variety of ways. This isn't just about Ohio. These capitalists, man, is going to kill us. These unhinged capitalists is going to kill us. Thank you for the super chat. Just bringing home, that super chat is just bringing home the devastating effects of this shit. And these people are, and FEMA's talking about they don't qualify yet. These capitalists is going to kill us, y'all. All right, let's try to get back on focus here. Let's just quickly see what this is about. It popped up as the next video. The video I did watch, I guess, ended, and this popped up. So let's see. It says Republicans use Ohio train disaster to pursue culture war. Let's see.
Majority in Congress. Generally, what they want to do is hit the ground running. So far, the Republicans have not done that. After an interminable series of votes, historic, in fact, House Republicans did finally elect Kevin McCarthy Speaker of the House. And earlier this month, credit where due, they did manage to kick Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar off the Foreign Affairs Committee for reasons they weren't really able to articulate. Something much.
Okay, I didn't want to hear none of the fluff that he needs to put in for the Democratic establishment. I'm trying to fast forward to the train wreck. So let's go.
Deeper play. I have a theory here. And an illustration of that theory in action is all on display right now in the reaction to the train derailment disaster in Ohio. So, as you've likely heard, as Mehdi covered on the program last night, train carrying chemicals, including a toxic flammable gas called vinyl chloride, derailed near the Ohio-Pennsylvania border earlier this month. That, in turn, started a fire, and then they had to do a sort of controlled release of some of those chemicals, which blanketed the town of East Palestine, Ohio, in noxious smoke. There are, as of today and continuing, really significant concerns about the accident leaving behind a lasting environmental disaster. And many residents of the town of East Palestine are complaining of health issues and, understandably, fearful about returning to their homes.
Some living in the area are still smelling strong chemical odors. Now they're demanding transparency about what toxins might be lurking in local creeks and in the atmosphere, how they could potentially impact the area in the future. The EPA says the village's water supply is safe. Residents are worried that homes with well water may be at risk. And residents say they want long-term testing with the results publicly posted.
When journalists in the New Republic interviewed people on the ground, including a woman whose family donned N95 masks and gloves before entering their contaminated home, only to find, quote, after leaving her eyes burned and itched, her throat was sore, she had a rash, her husband and both her sisters had migraines.
See what's happening.
Another woman who lives by the accident site, quote, has suffered from a sore throat while her 8-month-old baby has suffered respiratory issues. Now, after enormous public pressure, Norfolk Southern, which is the rail company that operated the train that derailed, announced a new round of financial assistance to benefit the impacted community.
$1 million.
But it's pretty clear that a lot more needs to be done for the people of East Palestine. And this is where we come to what I think is the sort of fundamental failure of the Republican Party right now. Because Republicans have had a lot to say about the incident. They've been talking about a lot. They've mostly been trying to score political points at the expense of the Biden administration. Marjorie Taylor Greene, current thought leader of the Republican Party, who voted against the bipartisan infrastructure bill last Congress, went on a somewhat bizarre Twitter rant where she seemed to blame pot-addled liberals for our crumbling institutions. Ohio Republican Senator.
Okay, so he's just participating in the same culture war. We don't need to watch this nonsense. I thought he was going to be doing something substantive, but he's not. And I should not.
On the last house on the left.
So let's go to the final video of the resident that I have bookmarked here, but I got to stop this one.
I live on East Martin Street.
Let me pause that and bring up the final video. I have of another young lady, but this one is inside. Oops. How does this work here? Oh, there we go. I have a new mouse, and it doesn't. It has so many gadgets on it. Anyway, that's a tangent. Let's get to the next young lady. This is in the town hall where she's asking a question. So let's listen to this, or she's trying to get an answer, is the better way of saying it.
This is why we're getting frustrated.
Let's restart it now.
Why are people getting sick? There's no answer. This is why we're getting frustrated. Because we keep getting blown smoke or getting told to call another number.
Here's
and
my
then
card.
It circles back. If I call the number on your card, sir, with all due respect, you still won't be able to answer the question I just asked for all of these people. My question is, that lady had concerns over children and people getting sick and having symptoms and being hospitalized or going to the hospital for care. And we're all very fearful and really concerned, and we're told there's nothing in the water and the air is fine. But yet, why are people getting sick? We need to know for our own safety, our own peace of mind.
Let me get to the mic.
Okay, look, I think that is a legitimate question. That is a legitimate question. Now, I'm just going to answer from a common sense perspective. I'm not a doctor, okay? And I'm not a chemist. And so I can't tell just by hearing a symptom or looking at someone what's causing that ailment. Here's what I would recommend to everyone. If you've got ailments and conditions that you did not have before February 3rd, go to your doctor, get that documented, keep that health record, and then when this process settles down, come back to me if you're not getting any help from anybody else, and we will elevate that issue for you to try and find an answer for you. I can't tell you right here tonight which of those chemicals might cause which problems.
Oh, so
because they think you want those lies.
This pops up. So,
And there's a lot of truth to that if you're in the right way, right? And so they know that if they don't, like, it's a very, very telling thing he said was that these guys I
keep thinking I'm pausing. Okay, I pause it. All right, so let me bring up, let me see if I have another video for here. I do not. So let's go to the next part. And that is, I do want to show you a quick video of, this one's on Twitter. This one is no sound, but you'll be able to see how bad the tracks are for these trains. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. This is like a video of a close-up of how, what the rail looks like meeting the track and how poor a condition it's in. Let's see, where am I? Right here. This one's by Joey Reck. So let me read the caption. I can read it still after I blow this up. So let's blow this up. Look at how, wow, uneven and just terrible. I don't know if you could see that. The condition of the track here in that first one. That's another close up there. Good Lord. Look how they're rising up off the actual rail from Bumps. And I'm going to rewind it and read what it says there in a second. But I did want to watch it all the way through. This is amazing. The crap that will spill is going to get into the water supply all through that area, possibly through the whole country via water supply. That's from Dana. This one. I love how they litigate which party is responsible instead of demonizing the actual rail company. And I was going to make that point too, or a similar point, because he kind of gives them credit. Oh yeah, Norfolk, they're going to say they put up $1 million. And then he just kind of moves on from the rail company. Now let's go ahead and battle this culture war thing. I swear I'm so tired of red versus blue. So am I, Matt. Let's see if there are any other comments I can toss up. Yeah, some great comments so far. But anyway, let's what was I bringing up here? Oh yeah, let me play this again, and I'm gonna read to you what it says here on here. Train struggles to tackle bending. That's what it says. The freight train is having a rather tough time on these bendy tracks. After years of neglect, these Ohio train tracks are in desperate need of repair. Like, all the examples are in Ohio? Or you get what I'm saying? Like, when the guy was speaking about the rail strike back in December in that video, the intro video, he was talking about Ohio too. So I'm wondering, is that a pivotal point? Hang on, let me mute it while we play so I can read it. That's terrible. Wow. Thankfully, this driver clearly knows what he's doing, but is slightly unnerving. Some parts of the railroads in particular need to be tackled at a lower pace. Just imagine what it would be like driving a passenger-filled train along this trail or track. This certainly doesn't look safe at all. And then we can bring that video down here. So I think I've kind of set the scene here of basically what's going on, how it's affecting people, because I wanted to do that before we get into some of these questions that we're going to be answering. And let's start with the last one. Do Democrats care about the working class poor? Like, do you think that there's a angle here? I don't think that. I think that whether Democrats or Republican, I think they will be slow because they're looking out for the rail industry barons. They're looking out for the rail companies. So I don't necessarily think, oh, Democrats are moving in a particular way because this is Ohio, and they're not going to win Ohio. But because the two sides is a working class, now these workers are white, so white working class against these barons, they're choosing the capitalists. They're choosing the barons. Just like they would choose the barons over black workers, over Hispanic workers, or Latino workers. You see how we're all tied together as workers? Because this could be a community of black people, and they also would not be doing. Do we think they would be doing something if these was a community of black people? A working class community of black people, do we think it would be different? Or a working class community of Muslims? So to me, this is a teaching point of solidarity as worker solidarity. I gotta sound it out like a small child. But this is a solidarity. This is a moment where we can teach about solidarity across workers, for all workers. Show that these capitalists don't care about any of us. This is a better way. Solidarity with all workers. So, and that's why another reason why I feel like I wanted to report on this with this angle with some of the questions I want to address today. Because what the squad and progressives who voted to break the strike, along with the Democratic Party and the Republicans, they broke the strike because those were workers, not because specifically they were a particular race or particular another marginalized group. It was because they were workers, and they don't care about this community of workers versus the railroad barons, not because of any other reason, because they're workers. So there is the point that I'm trying to bring out here in this first sort of segment of this Friday stream. Now let's get into, hang on a second here, my screen is refreshing. Now let's go to the next part, and I think I have it queued up here. So because I started with the last question of, do Democrats care about working class, poor people, poor whites in Ohio? No, they do not. I wouldn't say has anything to do with the electoral part. They just has to do with the fact that they're workers versus the capitalists. So I think I answered that question. Now let's speak to the squad's silence on the Ohio derailment indicates guilt on breaking the rail strike, because they can't avoid the fact that people understand that their vote contributed to that. Because I typed in, I can't remember, I either typed in the squad or AOC or something like that, and then Ohio. And then I got a lot of people talking about, what about the rail strike? And I'll start here. I think it starts here. So I'll show a couple of these tweets here. Hey, what about the rail disaster in Ohio? Strike breaker. Let's see where this comes from, or what's the first tweet. So this is her calling out Elon Musk. So she tweets about this on February 12th. Birds of a feather flock together, and it's Elon with Rupert, right? That's a big deal, I guess. And then this person, Kevin K, replies beautifully with, what about the rail disaster in Ohio, strike breaker? Here's another one. Good thing AOC and Bernie, the rest of the fraud squad, and the Democrats crushed the rail worker strike. Now millions of people along the Ohio and Mississippi River are probably going to die, not to mention all the farmland being destroyed. Funny how Bill Gates always wins. So we have solidarity, or we want to have solidarity with workers. We want this to be a teaching moment for all workers to understand that these are white people they're doing this to. So these are white workers they're doing this to. So you understand that they don't care about any workers of any color. So don't fall for the culture war stuff to let yourself be divided from other workers. But anyway, let's continue with the squad's silence indicating guilt. And let's zero in on that as a segment. So squad guilt over rail. Let's just call it that. Squad's guilt over rail fight. Let's continue with a couple of texts, and then a couple of tweets, and then I have a video. Love this one here. I got to read it again. Maybe blow it up a little bit. Big eye. Yeah, let's do that. This one says, good thing AOC and Bernie, the rest of the fraud squad, and Democrats crushed the rail worker strike. Now millions of people along the Ohio and Mississippi River are probably going to die, not to mention all the farmland being destroyed. How funny how Bill Gates wins always. Let's see what other ones I have here. Here is one along with and then we're going to read the article, but another reason workers wanted to strike was because of the safety conditions. AOC helped crush that strike and is responsible for what is happening in Ohio. Spot on. Let's check out some comments and see what you guys are saying. The squad should be ashamed and embarrassed. But are they? They should. But are they? Let's see. They've made it illegal to strike. Protests are controlled. Big Pharma experiments on us and gets paid. But don't worry, Oprah's orb lady, Marianne, will save the day. And this is what I'm saying. Like, she is so not built for this moment. And I think and Chet's mom 4 is making the point also. Marianne is not built for this moment. My guy wanted us to love the millionaire class that can do whatever they want. Sirota works on films, and that is true. Let's see here. Let's read more of the article. I'm going to break this down. I'm sorry, not article, but let's read a couple of more tweets I have saved here. And this is just a reminder here. I also saved this one, a reminder of what AOC did last, how she thinks we're idiots and what she does.
Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me because
now, do you think she'll put on a show like this in Congress to rail against the rail industry?
Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks.
Like, she's literally trolling us right here. But the animation you see here on the floor, would she do this about what these capitalists have done to the environment in Ohio? What they're doing to the people in Ohio? Will she be this animated and railing against the rail industry? Utter silence. I think AOC is one of the ones where I don't think I've heard anything on social media. So
targeting women of color.
All right, so let's go to, I think I have one or two more. Here goes another one here. AOC, you have to take responsibility for the unsafe work conditions you imposed at gunpoint that have led to this catastrophe on the Ohio River. It was you who criminalized the strike that demanded safety for all of us. On point. Just on point. We'll go to the meme, but let's read it first. Me finding out AOC voted against the rail strike that ultimately might have prevented the Ohio disaster. What use is the Green New Deal when there is acid rain? And then there's the, I don't know if you can expand memes or GIFs, I'm sorry. But there you go. Let's see if there's any other good ones I saved. Wow, I didn't realize I saved this many. I think this might be the last one. I wonder how AOC and other progressive Congress people sleep at night knowing that they voted to break the rail strike that was meant to address the environmental disaster unfolding in Ohio. And I wonder if lefties will hold them to account or just revise history like always. And that's a great one to end on as far as reading some of the comments from some of the people making about AOC's contribution, and not just AOC, but progressives' contribution to this. And now let me go to a tweet that I have here. Actually, let me click on my notifications. I don't know why I have all of these on a Friday. Friday is usually a slow day. Let me make sure it's not anything important. Somebody tag me on here. Doesn't look like it. All right. So now let's go to what I tweeted out. I think it was, yeah. And here's the headline. For-profit railroads caused the disaster in East Palestine. And this headline comes from Socialist Alternative. They do have a columnist or a couple of columnists that write over there. So now I just curated already. We're not going through the whole article. I already just screenshot and clipped a bunch of parts that I want to read. So we're going straight to the point here. But let's bring it up. So that's the headline. For-profit railroads caused the disaster in East Palestine. Let's go to my first one here. Oh, wow. A lot of people clicked on that. All right, so here is the first one. Like Mindy, I'm sorry, let me make sure it can be seen correctly. There we go. So this is part of that Socialist Alternative article. Like many industries, the railroad underwent a massive transformation over past decades as neoliberalism swept the globe. In the early 90s, the freight magnates, seeing an opportunity to massively expand their profits, introduced a concept called precision scheduled railroading. And that's what we've been already talking about, PSR for short. They made the trains longer, reduced the staff, scrapped safety inspections, and lobbied the government to whittle down regulations. Next part. Before the transition to PSR, remember precision scheduling railroading, trains used to be meticulously blocked, which meant putting the heaviest cars towards the front and the lightest toward the back. But a key tenet of the precision scheduling railroading is dramatically reducing the time that trains speed in the terminal. And properly blocking a train takes time. The practice has effectively been eliminated by rail carriers. The practice of blocking has essentially been eliminated because of the time constraints, which is exactly what contributed to the derailment. So let us explain. You have one car, and you can see me here. This car right here is in front. This car is in the back, right? If this car is lighter than the one in the back, this stops, this keeps going. Derailment, off derailment, right? So that's essentially, this is why blocking is so important. Understanding that, okay, this cart weighs this cart is 100, that goes in front. This cart is 98 pounds, that goes second. This cart is 87 pounds, that goes third. This cart is 50 pounds, that goes fifth. That's important in blocking, but that takes time. And that was eliminated with the PSR, the precision scheduling railroad. The precision scheduled railroading. I think that's it. But let's continue to the next block here. I think there's 3 blocks. Did I click it? The train that derailed in Ohio was not blocked. Let me repeat that. The train that was derailed in Ohio was not blocked and had 40% its weight on the rear third of the train, meaning when it derailed, the back cars slammed forward, creating what's called a jackknife, also term used on truckers. When the train's emergency brake were activated, the inertia from the heavy load in the back of the freight rushing forward caused too much pressure to build up in the middle of the train, sending 38 cars off the wobbly tracks anyway. I added the wobbly part into there, but we saw that in the video. Next part, the dangerously low staffing levels of today's railroads was a key driver of the pitched battle that took place just this winter between the 125,000 unionized railroad workers and their billionaire bosses, raise an alarm about the dire working conditions on the tracks, including the heightened risk of dangerous derailments. Railroad workers voted by huge numbers to go on strike for a fair contract. Let's go to the next block. Here we go. Socialist Alternative reported extensively on the dangers inherent in the working conditions on the track, and we call for a full mobilization of the labor movement in support of a rail strike. Yet in an episode best described as sellout on steroids, politicians in both parties, and this is what I was talking about, alluding to earlier, both parties, including so-called progressives like AOC, voted to take away rail workers' right to strike in December, sending them back to work in the exact conditions that has now produced the exact conditions that produced the disaster in East Palestine, and will bring more such disaster if not corrected. Let me pause here, but we will continue with the next slide. So when talking complicity, we're talking Democratic Party. We're talking Republican Party. We're talking, of course, the rail barons, the railroad companies. All of these people have to blame, but in that talking about Democratic Party, let's drill down to the progressive Democrats and their complicity, and that's what we're covering right here. I bet they're like, man, this is literally the worst thing that could happen. After breaking a rail strike, this specific rail strike on the terms that specifically talk about this is just terrible for the squad and anybody who voted for this. When they didn't have to vote for this, remember, the votes that the squad made and other progressives made to break this strike weren't even needed to pass the bill. But they still did it. So they couldn't even pretend to be with the workers. And let's continue here with the next paragraph here. Carrying out the transition to PSR would be impossible without the willing participation of the politicians on both sides of the aisle who perform their duties as loyal servants of the billionaire class. And let's read that again. carrying out the transition to PSLR would be impossible without the willing participants of the politicians on both sides of the aisle who perform their duties as loyal servants of the billionaire class. Over the past 2 decades, the teamwork of railroad lobbyists and corporate politicians have led to widespread deregulation of the industry. This deregulation has allowed profits for the major rail carriers to nearly triple, while safety standards have fallen below the floor. I think I have one more section to read of this, if I'm not mistaken. Or did I? Oh no, that might have been it. Oh no, sorry, right here. So these are the last two, and we'll finish out this article. In 2014, after a series of derailments, the Obama administration proposed new safety regulations for trains carrying hazardous material. But once industry, he proposed it. Proposed, that's it, meaning brought it up. But once industry lobbyists began applying pressure, the administration backed off, agreeing only regulate trains carrying petroleum, exempting trains carrying most combustible chemicals, including the toxic cancer-causing chemicals now leaking through the soil underneath East Palestine. So we're going to see, actually, let's go to it now, since we just finished reading it. Let me go back here. We're going to see somebody trying to point to, oh, it's just Republicans. And this is the person. Rashida Tlaib here is trying to point out with her, actually, is this it? Let me see. This is the right one. Let's go to another. This is not the right one. I'm coming back to this, though. This one. So, yeah, this one. This is Pramila Jayapal. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Yeah, Pramila, just another one. So, because Pramila is trying to play it's Trump's fault right here. So let's read. The Federal Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration must require advanced safety and braking equipment in highly flammable trains. Obama proposed this in 2015, but Trump administration reversed in 2017. Now, let's go ahead and break down how she is literally omitting evidence to try to seem like the Democratic Party did something better. She's literally she's omitting to the point is almost a lie here. So let's break this part down that she tries to do here, which is just absurd. Let's do this. Pramila lies by omission. I think that's how you spell. All right, so Pramila lies by omitting. I said info. Should be info. Info. Pramila lies by omitting info, and let's explain, because we just read the article from the socialist website. I'm sorry, from Socialist Alternative website, and about how Obama proposed these safety regulations. But what she's missing is the middle part, and we'll go back to it just to bring it up. What she's missing is the middle part. So let's read again what she says here. The Federal Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration must require advanced safety and braking equipment in highly flammable trains. You must require that. Here's where she tries to give Obama credit, Democrats credit, and say it's the bad Republicans. Obama administration proposed this in 2015. But Trump administration reversed it in 2017. Biden administration must now address immediately. Now, let's go back to the part. Let me see if it'll go back to exactly to the part. Okay, it is. So now let's go back to the last part again of my tweet here where we talk about it. Now, this is it. Here we go. Here's the part she leaves out. In 2014, after a series of derailments, the Obama administration proposed a new safety regulation for trains carrying hazardous material. That's the part she mentions. He proposed this. This is the part she leaves out. But once industry lobbyists began there we go. Once industry lobbyists began applying pressure, the Obama administration backed off, agreeing to only regulate trains carrying petroleum. So even if Trump kept in place what Obama did, this is about trains with petroleum. He excluded exempting trains carrying most combustible gas, including chemicals, including the toxic cancer-causing chemical now leaking through the soil underneath East Palestine. So as you can see, she literally decides to leave out that tidbit of information so that she can go see Republicans bad, Democrats good, at least better than Republicans. So that's what Pramila Jayapal is doing. And she attaches an article from Reuters. Ain't this something? Trump rail safety oversight. Oops. Pop up. I know you can't see it, but a pop-up just came up on my screen. Trump rail safety oversight in focus after Amtrak crash. So here's her trying to divert. Here's Pramila Jayapal, who voted to break the strike. Here is her trying to divert guilt, divert blame, or level the blame field. I guess you can say I'm making up terms here. By trying to make it a point that, oh, but Democrats is slightly better because Trump repealed it. Repealed what? Something that doesn't apply to this, Pramila? That you should know. So, again, this is clearly indicating guilt to me. Now, let's go back to some of the other tweets that we passed to get to this and read here. So here's let's skip over to let's go to Ilhan here. Now Ilhan tweeted out on February 13th, and she says, East Palestine. Let's blow hers up here. This is Ilhan, and from what I could see, this is what she up until the beginning of the show. This is all I found. Now she might have tweeted something later. Let me know if she's tweeted something new after this. East Palestine railroad derailment will have a significant negative impact on the health and well-being of the residents for decades, and there is almost zero national media attention. We need congressional inquiry and direct action from Pete Buttigieg to address this, and she tags Pete in that. She fails to mention she voted to break the strike. That's what Ilhan fails to mention here. So you breaking the strike helped contribute to the derailment that will have significant health impacts on the well-being of the residents for decades. Let's see if anybody said that in the quote tweets. I didn't check the quote tweets. Like just what I thought. It was a bunch of Trump people. Anyway, so let's go to the next one I have, which is Rashida. Now, this is Rashida. Rashida was the rotating hero in the rail strike breaking event. So, and here's what she says: the rail industry continues to profit to put profits over the health of their workers and our residents. This train derailment has burned off hazardous chemicals and fumes linked to cancer that are toxic to the community and our environment. Secretary Pete must ensure this never happens again. Just maybe she should talk to the people who broke the strike, her fellow squad members. And I think that might be it. Because she talks about, because there's a train derailment in Detroit. And here, let's hear what she says here. Unbelievable! Another train derailment from a Norfolk Southern train, which a chemical fire still burns in Ohio. And this is after the company posted record profits in Q4 of 2022. This is what happens when corporations put investor profits over safety. And this is when reps like you vote for those same corporate profits. What is she talking about here? But there's another train derailment in Detroit, and let's watch what. That's terrible. And I guarantee it's probably the same sort of thing happened, where the heavier trains help to. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to put the sound on. Help to buckle the train like this, or jackknife is a better way, is the proper term, I guess, or the right term. I'm not gonna say proper. Let's look at some of the comments here. I haven't. This looks like the comments are stacking up here. So let me go make sure the comments play. All right. So I don't. With a quick glance, I don't see any super chats. I don't think I missed anything. What's up, Zoya? I didn't even know you were here. What's up, Zoya? Zoya is life. Zoya's love. CJ doing Schoolhouse Rock episode with props and all. Yeah, today I had time because of a holiday. My wife is half day, so she was home earlier. So I didn't have a lot of the kid work. She wanted to do it, picking up and dropping off, doing that stuff. So I had more time to do research. So yeah, I was able to go through things and articles and do more stuff today. Thanks for noticing. But yeah, this is the derailment in Detroit. Another train, same company. But Pramila is calling them out. I don't know how, when she has figuratively speaking blood on her hands, or she doesn't come in this with clean hands. Let's go back here. I don't think I have any other ones here. I'm going to go to YouTube. I have a couple of other things to show you on YouTube. Oh, actually, this is the one. So here is the lever. Is he a writer and reporter? Let me see if it says writer and reporter. Hang on a second. Democracy Now! This is from The Lever. The train derailment in East Ohio shows how corporate greed and lax regulation have degraded railroad safety, says Matt Cook of The Lever. So let's listen. I'll start and stop when needed.
This train was 2 miles long. Why don't you start there?
Yeah, trains have been getting longer and longer, and it's occurring at the same time that the railroad workforce is getting smaller.
Researcher and writer. So researcher, not a reporter.
And smaller. And these were exactly the concerns that the rail unions raised last year with the Biden administration, with railroads, with the public, surrounding their contract negotiations and the need for paid sick leave. So that's the broader context. And then.
So, and here, and again, Matthew Cunningham Cook could be a great researcher, great writer, no problem with the article, no problem with what he's saying as far as the information. The question becomes, what is the value in you telling us how both parties, in particular the Democratic Party, because they're in power, pushed against or quailed or stopped a strike or broke a strike through legislation, through a vote. What the problem is now David Sirota going and saying, hey, everybody, let's vote some Democratic Party people in. Therein lies the problem. Because no matter how you slice it, you can say they're progressive Democrats and make that difference. I don't make a difference. They're the same to me and make that difference. But they're still joining the corrupt team. The team is still corrupt. Just because you are a teammate and you're saying, I'm not corrupt and I believe different, the team and the leadership is still corrupt. And this goes to something I wrote down. Let me see what I wrote down here. I'm now remembering. This is what happens when you choose to team up with bought, corrupt people like the Democratic Party. It puts you in the position that the Lever is in, that David Sirota is in, where you're reporting on their failings, you're reporting on their corruptions, you're reporting on their being bought by corporations. But then you're trying to fill their bench with people. And you can't fill their bench with enough people at one time to really do anything. Because to take over the party, you probably wouldn't need 125 or so. Slightly more than half, because control of the House was about 218. So I'm saying half of that, 209 or 109. So to control the party, you need about 125 people. You see where I get the math? Math? I use math with an F, but I say math with an F. So herein lies the problem for David Sirota and the Lever. It's not on the reporting end. It's on the end where you're trying to fill the bench of the people who are doing these things. All you can say all you want, oh, they believe in this, they don't believe in that. Let's say they even vote differently. But the fact that you're adding numbers to the blue team gives them power. And because your progressive Democrats aren't in leadership, the power is given to the corporate Democrats. So again, it brings back to focus for me and workers. What is the bottom line value in your work? Because how isn't your work supposed to be reading about these corrupt people and saying, I don't want to fuck with these corrupt people? Shouldn't that be the reaction of a person? But instead, it's read the information about the corrupt people and then vote people on the team of those corrupt teams. So let's now finish with the video. You get the point that I'm making. And again, this has nothing to do with the actual meat and potato reporting. It has to do with the advocacy afterwards.
There's the fact that the industry was successful in reducing the scope of this high hazard flammable train definition. And they've been successful at resisting the widespread implementation of revolutionary new braking technology called electronically controlled pneumatic braking. Over 15 years old, the railroads initially championed these new brakes, but once they figured out the cost, even though it was only $3 billion, so that's less than 3% of the amount that the railroads have spent on stock buybacks in the last decade, they lobbied hard against any rules that would mandate.
Lobby hard. That's on both sides now. Both parties contributing. So both parties are the problem. Why is anybody voting or promoting or advocating for either party, red or blue?
Their implementation. And that's a huge problem because right now, railroads use 1868 technology from 1868.
Can you believe that? 1868. Slaves were free, or enslaved Africans were freed for 4 years. They were freed in 64. So you're talking about this is a rail system that's literally when slavery was around, we're still using this.
To break trains, and it's basically a ricochet effect. So the engine brakes, and then the first car brakes, and then the second car brakes, and then the third car brakes, which means that the train doesn't all stop at the same time. What that does is when heavier train cars bump into lighter train cars, which is very common because they're not properly ordering the train cars because of the massive cutbacks in the railroad workforce, that creates what's called in-train forces, which destabilize and derail trains. And Railroad Workers United, this cross-union advocacy group of railroad workers, has said that that almost certainly played a significant role in the derailment here, on top of the issues with the axle that was on fire. So yeah, and then Norfolk Southern in particular really seems like it has one of the worst safety records on the rails. There's been repeated incidents in Ohio of Norfolk Southern derailments. They had 2 derailments last year that they still haven't picked up the costs for, even though they explicitly pledged that they would. And unfortunately, you really have a transportation secretary that appears resistant to taking actions.
And we're getting to that. We're swinging over to Pete. Don't worry, we're getting to Pete before we get out of here.
The train was 2 miles.
We still haven't gotten to Nina's couple of short videos, and they're very short. If you ever watch Unboss, her videos are pretty short. I think that is all the ones I wanted to show you. I just wanted to make. Oh no, let's go to Nina's tweet here. So this was February 12th that she tweeted out, and I think people have seen this. Let's be clear, very clear. Once you break a strike, you no longer get to claim you're pro-union. So this is Nina Turner speaking. I'm sure a lot of you already seen this. If you already have, a Twitter account. But let's read. What Nina says here. Let me be clear. Once you break a strike, you no longer get to claim you're pro-union. When nurses go on strike, people say, what about patients? When teachers go on strike, people say, what about students? Solidarity is solidarity, period. And then I guess she tweets this. What does the corporate duopoly do? President Trump, Department of Transportation, that's what that DO is, Department of Transportation, rolls back rail regulations. President Biden's Department of Transportation doesn't reinstate rail regulations and breaks a rail strike when workers blow the whistle. Everyone is then quiet after the Norfolk Southern derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. That's a pretty fire tweet. Because I love how she mentions Biden's name here. He mentions that he break the strike. And she says here, don't claim to be pro-union if you're breaking strikes. So I got to give Nina Turner all the credit in this particular tweet because it's spot on. And I did another segment. Who did I do that segment? With Rome, where and you can go see the video in the RBN clips playlist, where she's sounding more radical, and here she's sounding like more radical too, calling out President Biden by name, talking about the rail strike, talking about breaking. If you break a strike, you're no longer claim to be reunion. So she got to be saying she's not running for Democrat no more. What do you think? Isn't this like it's like eating a one bowl of shit versus two? Isn't this like a eating one bowl of shit comment that they're gonna play over and over? You called President Biden. You said he wasn't pro-union. So that's Nina. I think. Do I have another one of Nina? Maybe not. And there's a lot. I'm not going to read all of those, but I will read you my tweets on today's subject. And I tweeted this out earlier today, and we can read. A lot of the elected progressive Democrats have been silent on the Ohio train derailment disaster because they are complicit with breaking a rail strike where the employees were concerned over safety issues, just like the ones that led to the Ohio derailment. And then this one here, which is the second part we're about to go in, is more talking about zeroing in on Mayor Pete. As with Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, progressive Democrats are using Pete Buttigieg as scapegoat for the Ohio derailment to avoid the actual issue, the Democratic Party. And that's part of the actual, I think, title here that we're title and one of the questions we're going to be covering, or we're still covering. Because remember, progressives are using Mayor Pete as a scapegoat because outside they're using him as a scapegoat instead of talking about the real issue, which is aligning with the Democratic Party. The aligning up with the Democratic Party is the issue with people who are left-leaning and leftists. That's the issue. And we've talked about the squad already. And we're talking. So I think I've kind of covered, not succinctly and not in order, but covered all the questions I had. But now we're going to kind of talk about Pete, and we're going to talk about it through the lens of Unbossed. Oops. YouTube. A second. YouTube should be coming up in a second here. Okay. All right. Oops. Oh, my bad. Oh, shoot. That was a pop-up screen. I didn't realize that was a pop-up screen. I typed my YouTube URL in. That was a pop-up screen. It popped up without me knowing. But anyway, let's now go to the videos I have saved here. What do I have here? Do I have I have Nina Turner's video saved here. Yeah. So day ago, 2 days ago. Let's try to go in a order. Yeah. Let's try to go in order. So we might play two of her videos. This is the one. So this is not her most recent when she's talking about Mayor Pete. I kind of want to go in order just to see the progression of her thinking and what she was saying.
Right. I mean, if you look at what the American transportation systems have faced in the last 2 or 3 years, partly because of the pandemic, we've faced issues from container shipping to airline cancellations. Mm-hmm. Now we got balloons.
That's right.
I don't even know what y'all want me to do with this.
I forgot this. I didn't know which video she said that on. That's hilarious to me. She's like, I don't know what y'all want me to do with this shit here with this guy. Okay, I want to hear that again. So I want to hear her say that again. That's totally something Nick would say, and I would be busting up laughing. Let's listen.
I don't even know what y'all want me to do with this. He's the Secretary of Transportation. People are catching hell. It's the federal government. And they're making excuses. As you've heard me say time and time on this show, and I will continue to say this, I got more expectations of my 2 toddlers than we do for grown A people like this in high positions, making light of the things that people are enduring in this country. He had an opportunity to fix these derailments. Yeah, he did. And so did the administration before that. And the administration before that, in all fairness. Let me just put that out there too. But Pete Buttigieg's department has not moved to reinstate an Obama-era rail safety rule aimed at expanding the use of better braking technology, even though a former federal safety official recently warned Congress, might as well have been talking to a wall, warned Congress.
So I'm going to pause here, and this is the reason I didn't. This is the reason why I went in this order that I did go, because we needed to cover the socialist alternative article that talks about what happened with the Obama administration, because progressive Democrats are they're using this, and we saw how Pramila used it. They're using this. Obama, we need to reinstate it. What Obama actually did, not what he proposed. He proposed one thing, but what he actually implemented was only for petroleum freight, would not have covered chemicals. So even in this part with the lever, and I think this is a lever article. Yeah, this is a lever article, not quite telling the full story. And it says Pete Buttigieg's department has not moved to reinstate an Obama-era rail safety rule aimed at expanding the use of better braking technology, even though a former federal safety official recently warned Congress that without the better brakes, there would be more derailments and more releases of hazardous material. So I just wanted to make sure we interject that. They're giving Obama credit where he doesn't deserve credit here. Reinstating that as what it was is not going to would not have covered this derailment in Ohio.
Congress that without the better brakes, there will be more derailments and more releases of hazardous materials. Do you think the expert that warned them had a crystal ball? Or do you think that this expert understands what will happen next if the federal government doesn't set the rules? How about that? Because you ain't got to be an astrophysicist to understand that if you allow laissez-faire to run amok in any industry, this is what you get. But this dude right here, the Secretary of Transportation, he can afford to be cool, calm, and collected because it's not him or his family being impacted. It's not him or his kids being impacted. It's other folks' kids. It's Big Mama and Big Papa's kids in hoods where they misunderstood. In the rural hoods, the urban hoods, suburban hoods. It wasn't him stranded at the airport because he flies private. Hello, America? Do y'all see what's happening here? So instead, transportation regulations have been considering. Regulators have been considering. I just want you to wrap your mind all the way around this. I'm about to dress this up for you. Instead, transportation regulators have been considering a rail industry-backed proposal that could weaken existing rules. As if the rules are not weak enough. These folks want to put even more people in danger. And on top of that, sided with the...
Yeah. This is true. I don't think I talked about this earlier. They're trying, before all this happened, I don't know if they're going to continue. They probably will. They'll wait for it to die down and continue. They're lobbying it to make it even weaker. They're lobbying to make the safety rules weaker than what it is now. These capitalists is going to kill us. Let's continue with Nina.
With the rail barons over the rail workers when it comes to giving the people sick time. America, I'm talking to you. Are we going to continue to be complicit in our own demise? So much like Southwest, the systems for trains breaking are outdated, relying on Civil War era braking systems. Okay, so we talking about going back into the 1800s, just in case folks don't remember when the Civil War happened. Let Sister Turner break it down for you. It's something wrong. The Department of Transportation most recent regulatory agenda, which lists all planned, proposed, and final rules, does not include, let me say it one more good time, does not include an ECP brake rule. Pete would surely support this, wouldn't he? I mean, wouldn't the Secretary of Transportation support this? You would think that the Secretary of Transportation would support this, but look what my stunt double had to say, because she always weighing in. This is what she had to say. Buttigieg, it's been nearly a week since a Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, sending hazardous fumes into the air, and there hasn't been so much as a statement put out by Secretary Pete, the regulator of the railroads. That's unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable. Yasmin, I really, please help me understand what is happening here. Because maybe you can help me out.
Yeah, like just fix the brakes, even from a financial aspect.
All right, we'll pause there. I just wanted to hear Nina Turner. Oh, that was funny. I like how Nina Turner talks. It's reminiscent of people that I know. All right, so let's go to the next video. And again, I'm doing these more in a particular order of when she posted these. That was a more earlier one, 3 days ago. And you'll see the progression in the video. So you hear that. Now let's go to this one. And again, we'll just play Nina's part of speaking on it, and then we'll go from there.
Do nothing is a complete and utter lie. It's not a fib. It's not a fabric.
Let me see. Did I miss something in the beginning? Let me just make sure I didn't miss something in the beginning there.
Now, the neoliberals' belief that Pete Buttigieg could have done nothing and still can do nothing is a complete and utter lie. It's not a fib. It's not a fabrication. Read my lips. I said it is an absolute lie. Underscore it, bold it, underline it, put it in a message in a bottle on a train, not loaded with chemicals that can derail and then derail people's livelihoods in the process of derailing. I said it. It is an absolute lie. Pete Buttigieg's department has not moved to reinstate Obama-era rail safety rule aimed at.
So she's using the same clip from the article, but this is a different video. I had to double check. I was like, wait a minute, is this the same video? Here we go.
Expanding the use of better braking technology, even though a former federal safety official recently warned Congress that without the better brakes, there will be more derailments and more releases of hazardous materials. So Lance, I just jump in. I mean, maybe it's me. I would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, we're gonna listen to a few seconds of this because yes, that is. Let's be nice here. Yes, that is what Nick refers to as the Smurfs, but it's the Surfs. That's the guy from the Surfs. Yes, completely a liberal. Let's just say that. And let's be nice. So let's listen.
On the point that the Secretary of Transportation, one, has nothing to do with this, and then two, is just some helpless citizen in the United States of America with no power at all.
I mean, you're perfectly on point. I think there's no question that the right is moving and marching towards fascism in a lot of ways, and it's definitely frightening. But both parties, unquestionably, seem to be in the hands of corporations. This is an issue where the workers, first off, were saying that this is something that they need to have addressed immediately. The company itself is doing almost $10 billion in stock buybacks. They have the money to pay for this thing. Apparently, it would cost about 2 weeks worth of profits for them to upgrade all the braking systems on trains. And yes, it's disgusting and deplorable that the Trump administration removed the safety measures for that braking system, but you did reinstate it when you had the power to do so, which now falls upon you. And again,
it is clearly what it is what the progressives are. They almost there, but not quite. It's still missing a little bit something. And of course, here it's missing the fact that reinstating what Obama did does not do anything for what happened in Ohio. That applies to petroleum transports. So petroleum freight is what that applies to. It would not have applied to any chemicals. So, but in there, this is what they do. This is the problem I have with progressives, and this is the progressive Democrat, and this is the problem with being a progressive and running and being part of the Democratic Party. You have to walk this fine line, and that's what he's doing here, because you have to omit information to make the Democrats look good, and you have to, while critiquing, you can't go too far. So yeah, you're critiquing that Pete isn't doing something. You notice is they want to harness their energy and their anger more towards Pete than the Democratic Party. Pete has a boss. So, they're critiquing the Democrats while also trying to say Obama did something, so reinstate what Obama did, when that doesn't apply here. And this is the fine line that progressive Democrats have to walk. Giving compliments while at the same time trying to critique, while giving compliments at the same time trying to critique. Rokana does this all the time. I mean, they all do this all the time. But let's listen to a little more before we go to the last video.
and this is one of those things, like, it's straight out of a horror movie. The citizens of Ohio, at first, because the mainstream media wasn't reporting on this for so long, reporting that their chickens are dying and fish are dying in the water, and no one knows what's happening because of this massive chemical spill. It's absolutely disgusting that people are trying to turn this into partisan politics when everyone is to blame, and ultimately it's because the corporate Democrats, like the corporate Republicans, are in the pockets of, surprise, surprise.
You see how he makes the distinction, corporate Democrats? Does he know? Does he not know that progressive Democrats voted to break the strike? The problem with progressive Democrats and the strategy, and it's being illustrated over and over, who cares if you don't take money? What does that do? If you go, hey, what the team I'm joining is the corrupt blue team. What relevance of you not taking money? That's the whole argument of the good cop, because the person is a good person and a good dad. What relevance does that have? Let's continue. I can hear my girls getting home from school, play school.
Corporations.
There it is, Lance. The owner donors continue to win out, even with such suffering that is vivid. I mean, everybody can see what is happening in East Palestine, Ohio. Another point, the Department of Transportation most recent regulatory agenda, which lists all.
Okay, she covers a couple of the same slides, and now I want to get to the last video where she talks about Pete. So let's go to this last video. Now, this is the most updated. So you see the anger. Now, in this last video, she's completely done. I think this is it. Yeah, I think this is it right here. Now she's completely done with Pete, and let's listen to this final clip of Pete. And then
So it's past time for us to fire Pete Buttigieg. He needs to go. He is an epic fail. He has failed in his duty. As transportation secretary, he is making all kinds of excuses about what he cannot do. With all the power that he has, he's talking about what he cannot do. But meanwhile, back in hoods all over this country, people are suffering. And we're not going to take our eyes off of this situation that is happening in East Palestine, a situation that will likely impact Ohioans for the rest of their lives, and even some folks going into Pittsburgh, because we're all connected. Nobody is going to escape. But the citizens in East Palestine are the closest to this. Let's put up this headline. Buttigieg pretends he's powerless to reduce derailment risk. Facing pressure to act, America's chief rail regulator now insists he's constrained.
So I do have to chime in here because here is where the progressive Democrats are overplaying or exaggerating who is responsible and who should be taking care of this issue. Because just like, I mean, am I going to say that? Let's be nice. Pete Buttigieg has a boss. So if Pete is not doing what he's supposed to do, we should be saying, Joe Biden, what are you doing about your transportation secretary who's not taking care of this? If the transportation secretary is saying he's powerless, we should be saying, Joe Biden, your subordinate, your transportation secretary, thinks he doesn't have the power to do this. Could you explain to him how he does? All the cannon fire is going to Pete Buttigieg. Why isn't any of the responsibility, or the vast majority of the responsibility, going to his boss? So this is why I say it's now Pete Buttigieg is now being a scapegoat, because it's one thing to complain about Pete Buttigieg for a couple of days. That's fine. If he's not doing something in a couple of days, now you go to his boss, right? Isn't that how the professional managerial class does at restaurants and amusement parks? Don't you ask for the boss? So why is it different here? It's not different. I'll bring up that article in a second, but let's listen to Nina talk about this article.
Strained. And guess what? He is not. And here's what he stated, or what the Lever team, and thank you, Lever team, for putting this out. Facing pressure from lawmakers in his own party. After a spat of train derailments, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg has now resorted to falsely suggesting that he does not have power to compel the rail industry to upgrade its safety equipment and procedures. Where I'm come from, we call it a lie, but I'm just reading what the Lever put out. They're great reporting. In a Twitter thread posted more than a week after Norfolk Southern's fiery train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, Buttigieg indicated that he cannot reinstate an Obama-enacted Trump repealed law requiring some trains carrying hazardous materials to replace their Civil War era braking systems with new ECP brake technology. Now, according to Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg, there is nothing he can do to change the regulations, absolutely nothing, that the Trump administration put forth. Now, it has me questioning, then why is it that the Trump administration was able to do something different than what the Obama administration did, but now the Biden administration can't do something different than what the Trump administration did? Does that mean that the Republican administrations, they know how to wield power and do some different things with power that Democrats don't know how to?
Yes, Nina, yes. Lena's been getting a lot of things right lately. I think she might be saying, hey, I'm not running Democratic Party, because to me, she's saying a lot of things that is kind of falls in the same category as her bowl of shit comment. Now, another dynamic, another layer of this, what's going on with Pete, and this is also from the right and conservatives, they're really kind of going at Pete. They don't care about this. They really going at Pete. They're trying to bring Pete down because they know Democrats are looking to him to be a possible Democratic candidate for president in the future. So they're just trying to dirty him up. But then from the progressive Democrats' point of view, I think it's kind of the same thing, where there's an added animosity because it's like, Mayor Pete, how did he skip up here? And he's corporate. Like, how did he skip to the front of the line after just being a mayor of a small city? So, I don't know what he does, to be quite honest with you. So what does Buttigieg do? I don't know. I don't know if you're asking what does he do as his job? Like, what does he literally do? Or what can he do? I don't know what specific things he can do, but there's more that can be done. Just for example, how Joe Biden could have imposed sick days for rail workers, and he just didn't do it. There's certain powers, that the government has because of regulation. They can say, hey, you need to do this. Now, I would assume if you regulate the rails and those rails, your infrastructure is in tatters, you have some sort of authority to say, fix this shit, or your brakes in this situation. So I would think you have some authority, but you don't have that when your politicians are bought and people lobbied to weaken the safety laws, which they've done, both parties, over 10 years or so. I think I read in one of the articles.
How to do, please make it make sense. Let's go ahead and put up this tweet from the Secretary of Transportation. We're constrained by law on some areas of rail regulation, like the braking rule withdrawal by the Trump administration in 2018 because of a law passed by Congress in 2015, but we are using the powers we do have to keep people safe. That's a crock of BS. So again, Trump was able to undo what President Obama did, but President Biden's administration is not able to undo what the Trump administration did. Again, please make it make sense. But that has been debunked by the Department of Transportation. Let's put this up. This is a flat out false. There are constraints, but as DOT has made clear, we will look to the NTSB investigation, take action necessary to ensure accountability and improve.
All this time is passing by. Why they're arguing over who has power? How do you not know you have power to do stuff and you're the top person? That's my question. Like, how do you not know that? You do know. The obvious answer to that is that he does know. It's just that he serves corporate power. He serves the rail barons. So he's there to be the backstop. He's there to be the person to not do anything. That's exactly what he's there for. The next part I was going to go to, let's see where I have it here. Don't quite remember. Is this here. So I have a few things written down, and it goes to the complicity part of all of this. It goes to that part. Where is that article? I have that article. Yeah, it's further down. Sorry, everybody. Maybe this is not it. I don't know if you can hear my girls running around playing, but if you hear yelling, faint yelling, that's what they're doing. They're playing. Okay, so now I am. I knew there was something else I had on this. So now let me show you a couple of things. This is the conservative I wanted to show you. Conservatives talking about the same thing. Kind of showed you Democrats and all of that stuff. So let's show you what some of the conservative people are saying about the same topic. Good thing I scrolled all the way down because I would not have remembered this here.
Palestine is unacceptable. We should not have American cities that are lit on fire with a disaster, and for the residents there dealing with the health hazards that have come from this, that's unacceptable as well. And so my staff is in close consultation with the NTSB that is doing an investigation into the accident. I'm the ranking member on the Senate Commerce Committee that has jurisdiction, among other things, over transportation. And I got to say, Secretary Buttigieg has been nowhere to be found on this issue. It really is a remarkable thing that he hasn't gone to East Palestine to see what happened there. He hasn't come to Congress to explain what happened. For whatever reason, the secretary seems to fill his days with politics. I know he's got aspirations, but he actually has a day job. He has a job he's been appointed to do that is incredibly important, and we need serious leadership.
They're just giving him a lane to be able to make Republicans look good. You're just giving them a lane in this way. Let's go to the next one. There is another one here. Let's play it.
Officials from Norfolk Southern Railway declined to attend, citing their safety. Many residents demanding, where's President Biden's transportation secretary?
I don't know. Your guess is as good as me. Yesterday was the first time I heard anything from the White House.
Many residents in this small town of roughly 5,000 people say they're still feeling sick from the toxic chemicals released from the train.
I wake up every day. I've been sick with my upper congestion. This morning I woke up with my eyes swelled.
My kids, we're just running in to grab something, and then we're going back to grandma's house because they keep breaking out in rashes.
Kids do?
Yeah.
I work by the rail track, and I have experienced headaches and coughing.
I try not to go outside because...
Uh-oh. Playing videos, it does that. Anyways, let's go in here and play it again. I'll start off where we left off here. Let's see here.
My
I have sore throat.
Sore throat, headaches. My husband still has a headache.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine says the water is safe to drink here in town after tests came back negative, but he encouraged residents here to still drink bottled water and avoid the tap. Many residents say they're still scared.
My biggest concerns is ultimately the drinking water, the effects of the drinking water. And
I feel like they haven't been truthful with us. I just worry about especially the kids, the young mothers, the pregnant mothers.
Biggest concern that I have is with dioxins. Nobody's even talking about dioxins in period.
East Palestine's mayor appeared overwhelmed while speaking to reporters after the town hall last night.
I'm not ready for this. I wasn't built for this. I always saw myself as a leader of men, and I have the village on my back, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I'm done playing games. They're not playing games either. It's not he said, she said. They screwed up our town. They're going to fix it.
There's a lot going on there. Let's continue. Again, just showing some conservative people who posted about it and see what meeting. This is just showing the line to the community meeting, so I'll start the video over here. Pretty long line.
I know.
I'll blow it up for those. But as you can see, I'll turn the sound off. There's a pretty big line to enter into this, I guess, a sort of town hall or speaking place. So let's go to the next video. So let's round it out. Oops, did I go back too far? I'm going to bring up that article in just a second. Let's make sure there's no other videos I was going to play. Now let's hear from the actual governor.
What the danger was from a controlled release, which is what the railroad felt should be done. We then made the decision to go ahead with the second option, which was the controlled release. Our environmental teams remain in East Palestine, where they're working directly with the railroad and others to ensure that the site is thoroughly cleaned up with no shortcuts. This morning, I called Alan Shaw, CEO of Norfolk Southern. He and I have had contact numerous times since the crash. I discussed with him many of the concerns that we're hearing from residents of East Palestine. I asked him directly if he would personally guarantee that the railroad would stay there until absolutely everything was cleaned up. He gave me his word and his commitment that the railroad would do that. They would not leave until.
Like that means something. You're going to be there until you clean up. And what's the rest of this? What is the rest? That's just part. But yeah, let's go to
he also looked
another
at
video here. Or new. Oh, now this speaks to the earlier part. Now this is I think this is a person who used to work for Donald Trump. He's like his former something. But he puts out here, just in case you were wondering why Biden and Buttigieg are ignoring the toxic chemicals spilled in East Palestine, Ohio, here is the presidential results. So this is the point that he was making. And that's sort of a question. It kind of piggybacked or made me have that question earlier. And where was that question? Do Democrats care about working class poor whites in Ohio? Because they didn't win it, and it was a landslide. I don't think it's this. I think it's worker versus capitalist. So whether this was a white neighborhood, Hispanic neighborhood, or a Latino neighborhood, or black neighborhood, or indigenous neighborhood, if it's a working class, poor neighborhood, I think we would have the same results. So there is his tweet. And oh, here is Donald Trump Jr. Let's read what he says here. Donald Trump Jr., and this is his tweet. Maybe if the people of East Palestine, Ohio, pretended they're Palestinians from the Middle East, the Biden administration will actually pay some attention to them and send them aid. Oh, my Lord. I just can't believe he said that. The Biden administration is doing what for the Palestinians? But it's just completely absurd. It's just completely absurd what he puts up here. I should have been looking at all these comments. I'm going to get to a lot of your comments on our outro video. According to CJ, Republicans are only expressing outrage to make Mayor Pete look bad, but the other hand, Nita's been getting a lot of good stuff right lately. That's not it, but sure. This is what you get when somebody already has a particular point and they hear what they want to hear and what you're saying, and they only pick out the parts they want. Because I clearly didn't say that. I don't need to correct it because I didn't say that. But let's read this again. Maybe if the people of East Palestine, Ohio, pretend they're Palestinians from the Middle East, the Biden administration will actually pay some attention to them and send them money. Just absurd. And I think that completes the reaction from the right. I was trying to end off, or not end, but bring those up. I'm going to be playing this video in just a second. But before that, let me talk more about being complicit. Let me click on this before it backs me out here. I want to kind of wrap up that part of the discussion with a couple of things I have written down here. So let's put up the complicit banner. Let's go here. So for me, we already understand the complicity by voting and breaking the strike, but there's more complicity because how did Joe Biden get there in order to be the person to break a strike? So if you campaign to get Joe Biden elected, you're complicit with his administration, what he's doing in Ukraine, what he's doing in Palestine, and what he's doing with these rail magnets versus the rail workers. If you told people to vote blue no matter who, you're complicit. If you're in an organization like the Sunrise Movement, who pushed and advocated for their supporters to back Joe Biden, you're complicit with what's happening in Palestine or East Palestine, Ohio. If you're a person who vote shame people for not wanting to vote for Joe Biden, and you succeeded, I guess you would have succeeded to vote shaming people into voting for Joe Biden, you're complicit. If you're a person like Bernie, who just got done sheep herding young people to the Democratic Party in this past midterm, you're also complicit with the Biden administration. So this is what harm reduction looks like. Harm reduction looks like being close to nuclear Armageddon with 2 nuclear powers. Harm reduction looks like using a rarely used legislation to break strikes. It looks like increasing military funding. It looks like increasing funding to the police state. Anyway, I think I've prolonged the point. I think I've prolonged the point. Joe Biden is no way harm reduction, and I think that has been clearly proven in his first 2 years plus of being in office. He was not the harm reduction candidate. By sheer incompetency, Donald Trump was. Just by sheer, couldn't have his cabinet appointed. He didn't have nobody really doing nothing. He didn't trust people. Just him being sheerly incompetent or being incompetent is what made him the lesser of the two evils, in my opinion, at this point. Let's now go to some comments on our way closing out. Let me make sure I covered everything. We talked about progressive scapegoating, Mayor Pete, when the real issue is aligning with the Democratic Party. We also talked about who's to blame for the Ohio toxic derailment, and there's a lot of blame to go around. We talked about the politicians, the magnets, and also progressive Democrats. The squad silence or initial silence on the Ohio derailment indicated guilt of breaking the strike. And we went over a couple of tweets, and I think AOC still hasn't tweeted. And then we also talked about what good is David Sirota's reporting if he still pushes the Democratic Party at the end. And I think we covered all of those. So make sure you give us a like on your way out, and let's see what we got coming up. Like I said, I went on today because I knew Sabby is traveling to the Rage Against the War Machine rally. She will be speaking at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. So make sure you give us a like on your way out. I'll toss up some of your comments in just a moment here. I'm going to play this video to close us out. Yeah, I can play this. Yeah, it's already copywritten on this video, so I don't think it's gonna matter if I play it now. I'm pretty sure we already got a copyright strike. Not a strike, but demonetized because I played news coverage and all that stuff. All right, so here we go with this last video. I'll throw up your comments as we go out. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you join our Substack. Make sure you email us if you have any ideas for topics. Must include an article for us to seriously consider it. And then here is our website, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. Make sure you check us out. There's our Substack again. Like the video on your way out. And this has been Straight Out of Politics. I'm your host. I'm CJ, and we're going to end with this video here on the same time.
I went down 170 Sunday, and I put up the breath in my car, I was going to die.
Actually, that's not the video I thought, because I played this gentleman before. So actually, let's go with something else here. Kids making jokes out there. I can hear my daughter making a joke. But anyway, let me find a video, and we shall go to my bookmarks to find a sort of a closeout video. You can see her, Sabby, and that's the Sabby and Dr. Jill Stein. During the summit, and they're both going to be speaking at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. We'll get to these two articles at another time. I didn't list them in the thing because I really didn't think I was going to get to them, and good thing I didn't, because I didn't get to them. I guess we can end with the same video. Informative for those that didn't catch it in the beginning. We can end with this one right here. Pretty informative about the topic here.
This. I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, or they've cut the track gates too short and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmen's, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we had one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin. It picked a switch and derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically in the tiny town of East Palestine, Ohio, 20 miles from where I grew up. So I met Clyde in East Palestine to ask him about it.
It looks like a faulty bearing caused a catastrophic derailment. These railroads are turning profits hand over fist. They've cut their workforce to bare bones, and now they're paying the price for it because the wheels are falling off the train, basically. Carmen were inspecting cars about 3 minutes per car. That's always been the industry standard. Now it's 90 seconds per car.
Is that because of PSR?
Yes, it's a rush job right now. And these guys are under pressure. I mean, they're working men and women. And, if they don't hurry up and get this car done, they're going to be fired.
Great points. So I went to a press conference with Norfolk Southern and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to ask them about this. What could precision scheduled railroad have to do with the axle failure that caused the derailment?
I have no idea that it's a mechanical issue. Precision scheduled railroading is a management process.
Not a great answer. And that's probably because Norfolk Southern let a worker take the fall rather than a single corporate executive showing up in the town that they polluted to be held accountable. You see, Wall Street owns Norfolk Southern. 74% of shares are owned by a who's who of infamous hedge funds. And this is the business model that they demand. Profit at any cost. And disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. But instead of answering for any of that, they're betting that the corporate media, under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.